Do you know that in the 1800s, wearing glasses was seen as a sign of weakness? Not intelligence, not wisdom, weakness, fragility, physical failure. And in some places, it was enough to ruin your marriage chances, your career, or your reputation forever. Watch this story to the end, and you'll understand why millions of people once hid their eyesight just to survive socially. Before glasses became normal, poor vision was not treated as a medical condition. It was treated as a personal failure. In the early 1800s, eyesight was tied directly to strength, usefulness, and survival. If you couldn't see well, society believed your body was defective. During this period, most men worked in physically demanding jobs: farming, blacksmithing, construction, shipping, hunting, and factory labor. These jobs required sharp vision. If a man needed glasses, it meant one thing to employers: he was no longer fully capable. To need visual aid suggested weakness in the body, and weakness, in that world, meant replaceability. For women, the judgment was even harsher. A woman with glasses was often described in newspapers and social writing as frail, delicate, or unfit for motherhood. Medical ignorance at the time falsely connected weak eyesight with weak reproductive health. Some doctors even advised families not to allow their sons to marry women who needed spectacles, fearing weak offspring. But the stigma wasn't only about health. It was also about appearance and social class. Early glasses were thick, heavy, and uncomfortable. They distorted the eyes, caused visible pressure marks on the nose, and made blinking awkward. In portraits from the early 1800s, almost no one wore glasses, not because people didn't need them, but because they were ashamed to be seen with them. At that time, glasses were also expensive and not widely available. Most early lenses were handmade, and only the wealthy could afford truly usable pairs. But even among the rich, wearing glasses in public was avoided. Many aristocrats owned glasses, but only used them in private rooms. Being seen in public with spectacles could suggest aging, physical decay, or mental overuse, three things the elite did not want associated with their image. In schools, children with poor eyesight were not given visual support. They were labeled slow, distracted, or lazy. Many were punished for not paying attention, when the truth was simple: they could not see the board. In military recruitment, good vision was essential. Glasses were not accepted in many armies during the 19th century. If you needed spectacles, it meant you were often rejected from service. Military service defined masculinity in many societies. To be rejected because of eyesight meant social humiliation. So, by the mid-1800s, society had accepted a dangerous lie. Strong people see clearly. Weak people need help. And glasses became the visible symbol of that supposed weakness.
The stigma surrounding glasses did not come only from ordinary people. It was deeply supported by early medical theory. In the 1800s, medicine still relied heavily on outdated ideas about the human body. Vision problems were often blamed on weak nerves, or excessive reading, or mental strain. Instead of seeing poor eyesight as a physical condition of the eye, many doctors believed it reflected a weak constitution. Some medical texts of the early 19th century warned that using glasses too early would cause the eyes to become dependent and permanently weaker. Doctors advised patients to avoid spectacles as long as possible, even when their vision was already deteriorating. This advice spread fear. People began to believe that once you started wearing glasses, your eyes would quickly grow worse, a belief that stayed in public thinking for over a century, even though it was scientifically wrong. Children suffered the most under this belief. Teachers were instructed to discourage the use of spectacles. Many schools believed that glasses made children soft and less disciplined. Some schools openly banned them. In medical journals of the time, short-sightedness was sometimes described as a result of moral weakness. There were claims that too much time spent reading novels caused eyesight to fail, especially in women. This created a harmful idea. Intellectual curiosity itself was dangerous to the body, and glasses became proof of that danger. The working class suffered in silence. Factory workers strained their eyes in poor lighting, often sewing or assembling tiny parts for 12 to 16 hours a day. Vision loss was common, but wearing glasses in such environments often led to mockery or even job loss. Employers believed workers with glasses worked slower and were more prone to accidents. For sailors and soldiers, wearing glasses could be deadly. Fog, water spray, dust, and smoke made spectacles unreliable. Commanders preferred men who could see without any assistance. This reinforced the belief that real strength meant natural, unaided sight. Even religious beliefs contributed. Some preachers taught that physical weakness reflected spiritual weakness. Glasses became symbolic, not officially condemned by religion, but quietly associated with frailty and lack of divine favor. By the mid-1800s, the damage was complete. The idea that glasses meant weakness had been planted into medicine, schools, workplaces, families, military service, and social behavior. And once an idea enters all those systems at once, it becomes almost impossible to challenge.
Once glasses were labeled as weakness, the effect spread into every corner of daily life. People didn't just avoid wearing them, they organized their lives around hiding their vision problems. Employment was one of the biggest barriers. Many job applications required physical inspections. Poor eyesight could disqualify a person even if the job didn't depend heavily on perfect vision. Employers believed that weak eyesight meant future illness, higher risk, and lower productivity. In factories, workers often removed their glasses during inspections, forcing themselves to work blind for hours at a time just to avoid being labeled weak. Injuries were common because of this. Marriage prospects were also affected. In several Western societies in the 1800s and early 1900s, families openly considered physical traits when arranging marriages. Poor eyesight was viewed as a hereditary weakness. Women who wore glasses were perceived as intellectually obsessed, socially awkward, and physically inferior. Newspapers and magazines contributed strongly to this image. Cartoons from the late 1800s often portrayed people with glasses as cowardly, nerdy, nervous, socially strange, physically fragile. These images weren't accidental. They shaped mass opinion. Even politicians hid their glasses. Many leaders owned spectacles, but avoided wearing them in public photos because glasses made them appear older and weaker. Strength and authority were associated with sharp, unaided vision. In sports, glasses were ridiculed. Athletes who needed them were seen as unfit. Protective sports eyewear did not exist yet, so players often chose between being mocked or playing blind. Military consequences were severe. In many countries, soldiers who developed vision problems were sent home, stripped of status, and sometimes branded as unfit for duty. For men in societies where military service defined honor, this was devastating. Worst of all, children grew up internalizing this shame. Many learned early that needing help to see meant they were somehow broken. They hid headaches, eye strain, and blurred vision rather than admit the truth. So for over 100 years, millions of people lived with untreated vision problems, not because glasses didn't exist, but because society made wearing them dangerous to your identity.
The turning point for glasses did not come from fashion. It came from war, industry, and science.
World War I forced societies to confront reality. Millions of soldiers were tested for vision on a massive scale for the first time in history. The military discovered that vision defects were far more common than previously admitted. Entire units needed corrective lenses to function effectively. Optical technology advanced rapidly during wartime. Glasses became lighter, stronger, and more accurate. Militaries began issuing standardized spectacles to soldiers. When strong, respected fighters returned home wearing glasses, public opinion began to shift. World War II completed that shift. Pilots, engineers, radio operators, and intelligence analysts depended heavily on precision vision. Glasses became tools of skill, not weakness. At the same time, medical science finally separated eyesight problems from moral judgment. Ophthalmology advanced. Doctors proved that vision problems were caused by physical eye structure, not mental weakness or character flaws. Factories now needed precision workers. Reading, calculations, drafting, and inspection became essential rather than a sign of failure. Education systems changed. Classrooms improved lighting. Vision testing became routine. Children were finally allowed to wear spectacles without punishment. Academic success became more important than appearing physically tough. Hollywood also played a critical role. In the 1950s and 1960s, intelligent characters began appearing with glasses. Scientists, reporters, detectives, and doctors were increasingly portrayed as sophisticated rather than weak. Yet the stigma did not disappear overnight. Many people who grew up earlier still carried shame into adulthood. Even in the 1970s and 1980s, children were bullied for wearing glasses. The word "four eyes" existed because the idea of weakness had never fully vanished. But the narrative was changing permanently. By the late 20th century, two forces reshaped everything: technology and branding. Lens materials improved. Frames became lighter, thinner, stronger, and more comfortable. No more heavy metal pressure marks. No more thick, distorting lenses. Contact lenses also entered the market, offering an invisible alternative for those still uncomfortable with glasses. This reduced fear while giving people choice. But the biggest change came when glasses became fashion. Designers transformed spectacles into style statements. Celebrities began wearing them not because they had to, but because they wanted to. When musicians, actors, athletes, and models started appearing in public with glasses, the old association with weakness collapsed rapidly. In tech culture, glasses were rebranded again, this time as symbols of intelligence and innovation. Engineers, programmers, scientists, and entrepreneurs openly embraced them. Medical understanding also helped. People now knew that eyesight decline is natural and often hereditary, not a sign of failure. Routine eye testing became normal. Children wore glasses without being considered broken. Sports adapted too. Protective sports eyewear allowed athletes to compete safely without ridicule. Vision was no longer a limitation, it was optimized. By the early 2000s, the reversal was complete. What was once a symbol of physical weakness had become a medical tool, a fashion accessory, a sign of intelligence, a mark of individuality. Yet beneath that change lies a forgotten truth. For over a century, glasses meant shame.
Today, glasses are everywhere. In schools, in offices, on runways, on movie screens, on athletes, on leaders.
Most people no longer think twice about them. But this normality hides a brutal history. Millions once suffered in silence because society taught them that needing to see clearly meant they were weak. People lost jobs, lost marriage opportunities, lost confidence, lost safety, lost education, lost dignity. Not because of blindness, but because of belief. This story proves something bigger than eyesight. It proves that society can take a medical condition, attach shame to it, and turn it into a life sentence. And the most dangerous part? The people who suffered were never broken. They were just human. Glasses never meant weakness. They only revealed how cruel ignorance can be when it is accepted as truth. I have a question for you. If you lived in the 18th century, would you wear glasses and be mocked as weak, or stay strong and slowly go blind? Be honest.